Welcome to the Leadership Art Podcast. I'm your host, Art Robbins, and it's great to have you join us. The Leadership Art Podcast features insightful conversations with industry leaders who lead with purpose. Here you will discover practical insights, powerful lessons, and everyday inspiration to elevate your own impact, whether you are leading now or preparing to step up. We want to inspire you to be the best leader you can be. And today I'm honored to be joined by an extraordinary leader at the intersection of science, innovation, and human impact, Keren Leshem. Keren is a globally recognized biotech executive, entrepreneur, and CEO of ViVac Pharma, where she is helping pioneer breakthrough RNA-based immunotherapies with the potential to transform cancer treatment. Across a career spanning startups, women's health, medtech, and now frontier biotech, Keren has built a reputation for bold innovation, resilience, and purpose-driven leadership. She has led companies through growth and disruption, championed innovation that improves lives, and mentored the next generation of entrepreneurs. Keren, welcome to the Leadership Art Podcast.
Hi, Art. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you, and I know we're going to talk about some very innovative topics and some great insights on what it takes to be a leader achieving all those breakthroughs.
Looking forward to it.
I am too. One thing that might be good is I initially got connected with you. I guess I read about your work at the ViVac, and you really are doing some amazing things there. And I'm a layman, so I couldn't do justice to describing what you're doing. So I wonder if maybe just to set a context for this, tell the audience, in layman's terms, by the way, about the breakthrough innovations you're leading right now.
Wow, this is really science fiction.
Okay.
We're
We're all fans of science fiction. Luke
Exactly. This is
Skywalker in the
really
works.
science fiction. We're used to seeing devices and looking at diagnostics, but here we're really going into the cell with our RNA and DNA by synthesizing it. We're building a platform for a therapeutic cancer vaccine. Turns out that many tumors overexpress the polio virus. And we're building a platform based on the polio virus to get into the tumor and put in a Trojan horse in there to make sure we put in some immunostimulators to make sure we can get that tumor eradicated. We're very early in our journey. There are some companies that are working in this field, of course. And so it's very exciting for me also to be part of innovation that's really breakthrough. And some of these things, when our scientists and founders talk amongst themselves, I say to myself, they are speaking English, but I don't understand what they're saying. So like you, I'm a layman, but I'm here to make sure that we can bring this to the patients that need it.
So this is a vaccine protocol. This isn't radiation or chemotherapy
exactly.
or nothing like that. And when everyone thinks about treatment, they always think about, I guess, the safety risks, the health risks.
Correct.
With radiation treatment. That's not
Correct.
a concern
No, it's not part of what
with
we
this
do.
protocol.
Right.
Wow, so
And
that
we want to
really is the
design,
breakthrough. So you have to have the tumor first,
correct,
as opposed to it being
correct.
preventative, like
But you train your immune system to basically recognize these types of tumors later on if they do put their head back up. But yeah, it's very exciting. We're focusing on two major areas. We're trying to decide if it will be liver cancer or ovarian. My personal objective in women's health is still there. I want to see a therapeutic for ovarian cancer, which is a very unfortunate cancer to have with a very high rate of death.
That's incredible work. Realistically, when can you see something like this being available to the public?
If you have $100 million laying around, I'll take them off your hand. And I think it's going to take between 8 to 10 years.
8 to 10. Okay, audience, you hear that? This is like a mega crowdfunding opportunity to all my followers.
Exactly.
That's great. I know you talk about 100 million, and these are long-term, big-ticket items that requires a unique type of investor, obviously. But how is the investment community reacting to this?
I can tell you a secret that when I joined the company, the first thing I wanted to know, not the science, not even the team, I wanted to know how attractive this area is for investors, because I come from 100% women's health, so hard to raise money, so hard to get attention, so hard to get big tickets to fund a lot of programs that we've tried to do. And so that was my first go-to, is this interesting enough? And wow, the second I say mRNA, therapeutic cancer vaccines, there's a lot of attention that is gathered. And we're very lucky to have fantastic investors in this company. And I'm looking forward to our continued investors to come in as we move along and show our proof of concept and so on and so forth.
One thing I personally realized being involved with early stage companies, and followers know that recently I attended OC Orange County Innovation Week here in Southern California. And there were a lot of pitches of the developments here. There's a big med tech community here. And there were quite a few companies pitching that were involved in some form of cancer breakthroughs. Not exactly what you're doing, just so you know, but it's
That one of our founders said something that resonated with me. He said that our kids, the
Mhm.
children of our children, will look back at this era with disbelief and almost sadness that once upon a time people died of cancer. That's how he sees this technology move forward. And these are things that resonate with me.
That's an incredible vision. I know you mentioned polio, and the more I talk, people realize how old I am. When I was fortunate to be born shortly after the polio vaccine came out, and I remember distinctly growing up, and one of my best friend's older brothers was in a wheelchair
Yeah.
because he was born before the polio vaccine. And I would hear the parents talk about just the fear that they had every time a baby was born, that they
Right.
would be stricken with this and devastations. And now it's nothing. It's not, you can't even call it an afterthought. It's not even on the radar. So the thought of having cancer,
Look at COVID. Look at COVID.
fall into that category, that is an incredible vision. That is a very inspiring, motivating vision. And maybe that's a good segue into where I would like to go with this conversation, and even my observations from that OC Innovation Week, because as I was watching people pitch their cancer breakthroughs and innovations, it made me realize that, boy, this takes a different type of leader. Because so much these days is about speed and hype and going after the next big thing quicker and bigger than anyone else. But if you're in this field, this isn't about speed or hitting the jackpot tomorrow. It really takes a different type of mindset and resilience and patience and perseverance. And I'm sure there's a few other great adjectives we could throw in there. So I'm just wondering, what is your personal take on this? And what is it about Keren that makes you primed for this type of journey?
Ooh, do you have 3 hours? But no, seriously.
We could have a 6 episode series here if you'd like.
No, but seriously, we talk a lot about leadership and resilience, but I have some ways of looking at working and bringing impact into the world. And leadership is not a solo ride. When you're a leader, you lead, but you also have a network of people that support you. And the first and foremost, I think that if you take yourself too seriously, you don't create an environment where people feel open enough to admit failure or bring in new ideas. And so I think that humor and humility have to coincide with leadership. That's number one in my book. The other thing is when we talk about resilience, we all go through so many things in our lives. Wars, anything from climate things that happen, kids are born, friends and family may have illnesses or, God forbid, to die. So we all go through a lot of things in our lives that require us to be resilient. And if you add on to that, when you have to carry on a program or a
Mhm.
startup, Those
It's
things
your
can,
responsibility as a leader to make
exactly,
sure it's
exactly.
carried on.
So the responsibility is a lot to intake. But when, again, you don't take yourself too seriously and you have the humility and you have your network and support of your team, it makes it a lot easier to do it together. And resilience for me is more like a strategy. And it doesn't mean to tough it out. It means that your core values and your vision have to coincide with resilience. Even when the funding changes or the strategy changes or the world changes. New management, or sorry, new governments can come in and change FDA regulations, they can change other things. And so resilience works through a time frame. Nothing happens very quickly. And on the other hand, you have to be resilient to make sure that you can go through all these challenges over that period of time.
In your specific case, I think there's a lot to unpack there because you are experiencing resilience to many extremes. Just in the space that you're in with the R&D required, and you're truly a pioneer. You're treading ground that's never been explored before. When you're in trials and you're in experimenting, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You
Correct.
might have a game plan or a protocol you're following, but you won't know the results until you see the results.
Exactly.
How do you cope with that? And not just you, but how do you motivate the team to cope with that and keep
It's,
persevering?
if you would have asked me 10 years ago what type of leader or what type of employee or team member I am, I would tell you I like to know things. I like my calendar. I like everything to be organized. If we need to meet on Thursday, it's on my calendar. Everything needs to be organized. And in startup, nothing is organized because you always get surprised. You run out of money, the
Right.
formulation is not good. All of a sudden, something changes on the regulatory front. You got to get these documents because you have a deadline. And if you missed it, and then one of the investors says to you, sorry, we can't put any more money because we're dried out, or whatever you think you're facing, something else happens. And I think that the for me is not to, again, not to take yourself too seriously and understand things don't happen because of me or to me. Things happen because they happen, and now you have to look at the reality and think. And one of the things that I'm very picky about is communication and how to communicate with your team and how to make the team communicate back so that you can level out any disinformation, misinformation, or missed even milestones that we have. It's not easy, but it doesn't happen in one day, right? You build your
Right.
team as a community. Everyone's open and they can talk about what they feel, what they like, what they think, where to go. You have to take all of that into consideration and you build like a family, right? So that when things go south or when things even go well, you have that structure already made up, that trust and that communication. That's super, super important.
I think communication and trust are key themes. And the other theme that's come up in so many prior episodes here is learning how to cope with the unexpected. Sometimes it's called learning how to cope with failure, although in this case, it isn't failure. All the things that you described, it's just that things are different than you
Correct.
planned. And you have to build that into the system and make people
Correct.
realize that things will be different, but we have to learn how to respond, how to adapt,
Exactly.
not get discouraged, learn. There's something to
Almost,
learn.
almost even expect things to go wrong. If they go
Yes,
right, let's take another look or let's redo
right.
that study because you almost expect things to go wrong.
Yeah, I actually, what you said, if everything goes right, you probably are doing something wrong,
Something
right?
wrong.
Because you're not looking at something that
Exactly.
needs to be considered,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
But one of the things also from leadership is really listening. Right? You have to listen to investors and you have to listen to your team and you have to listen to your advisors and you really have to listen, not just hear. And one of the key themes that I've learned actually in mediation in my master's degree is active listening. And I love active listening because it's one thing to just sit quietly and hear what people have to say to you. But on the other hand, active listening means that you repeat what the person in front of you said in your words not necessarily to agree with them or to disagree with them, but just repeat exactly what they said in your words. And then they immediately feel a sense of connection. So, for example, if we're talking about your child and you're upset because he's doing ABC, and so I will actively listen and say to you, so Art, what you're saying about your child is that he's doing this and doing that, and that upsets you because ABC. And you're like, exactly. She gets me. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
not agreeing with you. I'm not telling you,
Mhm.
oh, he's a bad child or a good child. I'm just rephrasing what you said. And I think that puts in context also for the listener that he heard correctly. It allows the speaker to actually adjust what he's saying. Yeah, that's what I said, but you missed an important point because I also think ABC. And then you repeat that. Okay, so everything I said, but also ABC. I think active listening should be more included in leadership classes or events and
Yeah,
to really practice it.
I'm a big fan of what you're saying, and a lot of people enter a leadership role believing that they have to be the loudest person in the room or they have to take up the most oxygen. And in reality, it's the opposite. We had a communications expert on. She was a big fan of active listening, a big proponent, and she said that the best leaders actually spend more time listening and less time talking. And so sometimes that takes an extra level of self-control because as a leader, you're
Sure.
dying to say something, you're dying to express your
Right.
opinion and share your vision,
Or
but
to even make a decision, right? You're dying
or to
to
make a
get things
decision.
done, right?
Yeah, so sometimes you have to resist turning on the mic or pressing the send button and saying, maybe I should wait a day and make
Right.
sure what I'm saying is the right thing. And
That
it
that
takes an
reminds
extra
me.
level of self-control. That.
That reminds me, I also sit on boards and I mentor and support younger CEOs and to see them in their journey. I'm happy about it because they suffer also. It's not just me. I get to see them suffer. Great. But joke aside, when you mentor and you actively listen and you see the steps, many times you also learn about your own journey. And I think that's fantastic. I really recommend getting a mentor and being a mentor. That makes you a more well-rounded leader. And there's also different types of leaders. And we talked about this
Mhm.
earlier about hands-on leadership or not. So when you're a CEO or a C-level executive, you have more hands-on leadership requirements. But when you sit on boards, it's not necessarily the same, but you're still in a leadership role. And
You know how to gauge that when you're in the middle of it all. I've done mentoring too, and I guess as a mentor, you've had the benefit of being there, having done that, and you're often mentoring people that are doing it for the first time, and sometimes you're just tempted to jump right in and do it for them, but they have to do it themselves, right?
right,
And you have to be there to support them, but it's their job to
right.
actually do the work. So how do you know when to gauge or how much to gauge your level of involvement?
It depends on the personality of the CEO I'm mentoring. I'm working now with a fantastic CEO that's really going through a journey, right? Really a journey. And it's great to see him grow and succeed and keep positive. It's very difficult in this part of the world to be positive. We're going through a lot, and I think that there's a lot of disruption. There's disruption in investment, disruption in flights that need to go in and come out. You can't go out to meet people. You can't bring in mice for animal studies. And it's a very disruptive time. And to
Yeah,
see
we,
him,
by the way, we should, I don't think we mentioned this yet. We should point out to the listeners that Karen and her company are based in Israel, and
correct.
you've been through a lot.
Yes.
I don't think we can state the impact that all of the developments, the conflicts have had on you personally, your staff, your business. And when you talk about resilience and you have to live through conflict like that, it's really at a level that most people can't appreciate. And
Yeah, because this
how do
is
you
where we
deal?
live.
How do you deal with that
Very
when
difficult.
survival is
Lots
the
and
priority?
lots of carbs. Lots of carbs.
Lots of carbs. Okay.
Lots of carbs. Lots and lots of carbs. But it's really disruptive because you have an alarm, you have to go to a safe room, you're in the middle of working on a document or talking or speaking or meeting on Zoom. Sometimes, you're on the road. What do? You have to get out of the car and hide in a ditch. And my son's in the army. His father is also in the army. It's very disruptive. Also, flights. Flights are not coming in, not going out. Some of the team members, I was stuck abroad. I couldn't get back home for three
Yeah.
weeks. I was supposed to go for 5 days, and I was stuck in Europe for three
I
weeks.
remember we had to reschedule this
Correct.
broadcast
Correct.
because of that. Yeah.
Because of it. And we are waiting for specific mice that we've ordered from the United States. And these mice can't come in because there are no flights for these mice. So a lot of disruption, really. And you really have to get together and think how to progress the business, even though you have all these disruptions. We had some team members that were afraid to drive to work during this time. So it's
Well,
uh,
what do you
it's a
say
very
to the
different.
team, like after you had a disruptive event like that, whether it was a siren or alarm, whatever, and the team gets back to the office, as the leader, what do you say to them?
Most people just bounce right back to work because we're used to that. Sometimes we stop and we talk about, is everything okay? Do you feel okay? Sometimes someone would tell a story. Maybe someone had a bad night because there were many sirens or alarms that went off. So just be good at looking at people in front of you to determine if they need a break or maybe they need a day off or a week off, or maybe they need to talk about something, or maybe on the contrary, they just want to work to get their
Mhm.
minds off
Mhm.
things. So you have to know and really like your team and understand that they're, at the end of the day, we're all people.
I guess it's a real test of genuine leadership. And people can tell, are you going through the motions or are you genuinely concerned
Right.
and interested? I mean, like you say, it's the reaction to conflict or to any sort of stress is unique to people.
Very unique.
Right. I'm not, like you said, one person might not be able to work at all. Another person might only want to work to
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
escape it. And you have to have the insight and the empathy to be in tune with the
Right.
people.
And to navigate that and to see
Yeah.
how to get people to work. And what amazes me is during this time, these past few weeks where we had a very difficult time, the team every day was at work, got things done. And it amazed me because they had all the privilege or the right to say, you know what, let's take a break for a couple weeks until the situation resolves itself. No, they didn't. They came to work super dedicated. It really widens my heart. I feel like you're actual team members that kind of bring the business forward. Very exciting.
Well, you and the team are on a mission. And I mean, to
And that's exactly how
to
it feels.
eradicate cancer, these people are passionate about what they're
Exactly.
doing. How do you find people like that when you're screening people for the team? Is it hard or is it easy?
Well,
How
I,
do you
I gotta
find?
say that I landed with teams already in place.
Okay.
And I'm just in awe. Of course, we brought in our own team members, and those I always pick them together with the team. So I want the team to meet new people that come in because chemistry is very important. And if we have chemistry and people like to work together, they would do a better job. So I want to stay away from politics and stay away from people not getting along and make sure that the environment is A, safe, and B, open, communicative, and also that people just genuinely like each other and want to help each other out. And that's how you build a better team to get things done.
And you described a scenario that I think a lot of leaders find themselves in. There's an existing operation, there's an existing team, and you're brought in from the outside to lead it. And I imagine you were given a specific mission to accomplish something that maybe the prior leaders did not accomplish. Is that safe to say?
Actually, in
So,
this case, they did not have a CEO.
okay.
It was a project in the university that needed to form a company.
Okay. Become a real business.
Exactly. This was so much fun because you get to build something really from scratch. So you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to do things that the other leader did differently. So you come in and you really build something from scratch. Highly recommend it.
Oh, that's exciting. So it's a true greenfield opportunity. Okay,
Exactly.
but again, for leaders that find themselves in that situation where they're coming in from the outside an existing team, whether it's greenfield or corrective or what have you, what are the lessons you have for leaders there? How do they get accepted? How do they earn the team's trust?
In my former
Support.
company, that happened. And again, this active listening is great, is to sit quietly and just listen and to look at how the team members behave amongst themselves. I always talk about these poisonous team members. They need to leave immediately. Poisonous team members need to leave immediately, no matter how wonderful, smart, whatever position they have, how much time they've been in the company. It's not good for creating an environment of success. But on the other hand, if you identify people that have worked so hard and have been overlooked, to really bring them forward and ask. I have such incredible team members, and I ask them, would you like to see yourself as a manager one day? Would you like to still be on the bench? Do you
Mhm.
want to go to conferences and present the company? You ask these questions of your team members and genuinely get to know them. And that way you can navigate also their aspirations while trying to build your team again. And you have to look at it as if you're entering a new family. And again, humility and humor. And
When you talk
sometimes you kind
about
of check, yeah.
When you talk about poisonous team members, how easy and how challenging is that? I mean, I imagine the ones that are their behavior is overtly bad or dysfunctional. That's easy to spot. But what about the Yagos out there that are all yes and supportive in the foreground and the background? They're scheming and plotting, and you may.
You find out very quickly. You find out very quickly. Again, these are not big corporations, right? We're
Right,
talking about
right.
5 to 10 to 15 to 20 team members. It's very easy to spot. And especially in small startups, each member of the team has a very big job. No one does, there's no job that three people do. There's one person that does three jobs, right? And so
Right.
everyone is super, super important and crucial for the team. So it's very easy to find out what causes discomfort or poison. Very easy to fish that out.
And I imagine getting back to your active listening, if once you learn what people are doing, the three jobs they're doing, and you make everyone realize that their role is critical, the company can't function without them, that
Correct.
helps cement the trust and the loyalty and the commitment to the mission.
Absolutely. And also, by the way, I'm a very big proponent of celebrating your wins, no
Mhm.
matter how big or small they are. Celebrate them. Bring a cake to work, take the folks out for a drink, put a post on LinkedIn. Celebrate our wins because those little wins are what keeps us moving forward. And if we don't celebrate them and we only focus on what went wrong and formulation and clinical studies and this and that, it's always going to feel like we're getting beat up. All of us, me too. And so you have to celebrate your wins. Small ones, big ones, always celebrate them. I think the team really appreciates it and that makes them feel very proud that they progressed the technology forward, no matter what the win was.
It takes those little wins to achieve the big goal, but you
Correct.
can't wait 10 years to have your first celebration.
Exactly, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Karen, you're a great role model for leaders here. I could see that. And I'm always curious, personally, who are your role models? Who has inspired you to develop your personal leadership style and achieve the things you've accomplished?
I've been extremely lucky to have a few mentors in my life that really changed my perspective, my behavior, my understanding through the business. But if I have to choose one, only one, I would definitely choose my grandfather. He
Oh,
is
wow.
my
Tell me about your
biggest
grandfather.
inspiration. He was a Holocaust survivor. He was, I think, 23 or 24 when he left the camps. I think he weighed 70 pounds.
Um,
And to cut a long story short, he moved to Israel, had two beautiful girls. These girls had families, my mother, and he died peacefully at the age of 98, I think, 97 or 98. And I remember when my grandmother died, he stood above her grave and he said, we don't die. We just don't die. Why is she dead? We don't die. And you can see that he had one theme, we don't die. And all he did in his life was work towards building a life because we're alive. And I think that resilience and that strength and that belief that he's important, life is important, is just so inspiring.
That really is. I would like to add one thing to what he said. He didn't die and he left a legacy. I mean, the
Exactly.
fact that you can talk about him this way and his behavior has inspired you, and now your behavior is inspiring others. This is his legacy. So it's true. He really didn't die. He continues to live.
Live in me. Exactly. Exactly.
That's
It was
amazing.
wonderful.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Karen, we're about out of time. And one thing I always say is we have a successful episode if there's one or two key takeaways that our audience can grasp and start to use immediately to enhance their own leadership style and impact. So if we had to sum all this up, because we covered a lot of great ground here, what would that key takeaway
All right.
be?
So humility and humor, right?
Okay. Humility and humor,
Active listening,
active listening,
celebrate your wins,
celebrate the wins.
try to mentor or be a mentee, right? Mentor or mentorship, and resilience as a business strategy.
That's great. And your dog affirms it.
Exactly.
Your dog seconds the motion. So it
Exactly.
has to be right.
Exactly. She just did.
That's great. That's great. By the way, audience, I have a dog here too, but she hasn't said anything yet, just so you know.
Ask her later if she agrees.
That's great. This was a wonderful episode, Karen. Thank you so much for being a guest. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I did very much. Thank you for putting a spotlight on leadership. Wonderful.
No, it's my pleasure. And as always, I also want to thank our listeners and followers for you joining us and for your continued support. So until the next episode of the Leadership Art Podcast, this is your host, Art Robbins. And remember, it's your lead.